I am calling this regular meeting of the Lower Allen Township Board of Commissioners to order this 28th day of October 2019. Proof of publication is available if anyone cares to see that. We're going to open our meeting with a prayer and pledge of allegiance. We pray this day to give thanks for all the many blessings bestowed upon our township. Watch over us who are entrusted with the administration of this township. Create in us the earnest desire to serve faithfully and permit us to experience the joys of noble service completed for our residents. Encourage cooperation from those who are served and from those who serve. Help us to use every willing service and every effort put forth for good government. Heavenly Father, we ask your guidance to help us as commissioners to make the right decisions. We ask that you aid our staff as they perform the daily tasks of running our township, and we request that you be by our first responders as they protect our residents and see that they return home safe at the end of each day. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fellow commissioners, in your packets you received a copy of the minutes from our October 14th, 2019 meeting. Do I hear any corrections or adjustments, or do I hear a motion to approve?
Move we accept the minutes as presented.
We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we have the privilege of hearing from a member of the West Shore Recreation Commission, Mr. John Manito, who is a very dedicated member of that commission, and I had the privilege of serving with John on that commission for a while. So, John, if you would come to the podium.
Thank you very much, President Black. I appreciate that, and it's been a privilege working with you for many, many years, and hopefully we can continue to work together. And I'm here on behalf of the President of the West Shore Rec. I'm here just to say, again, thank you for your support, your commitment, your loyalty, and support to the West Shore Rec. It's been a very positive year. Our registration grows continuously. We have a budget of over $500,000. We have a staff of 4 individuals, which do a tremendous job day in and day out. You receive your catalogs a couple times a year. They put that all together, and they do a super job. We have programs for all ages throughout the year. We have over 100 volunteers, and with the support with you guys and the other 5 municipalities, it's very, very heartwarming to say that when we did our budget, we were able to keep the per capita down to $250, and that's the bottom line, which I hope I was here last year, and I said, hope I'm back again next year to say $250, but we've been holding at $250 for the past 6, 7 years, so I hope we can continue to do that. But just, really, and I want to thank also Mr. Young, your representative, who comes to our meeting on a regular basis. When we have our meetings once a month, and he gives us input on what's going on in the Lower Allen Township. I want to thank him. And also, we started about a month and a half ago, we sent a letter out to the different municipalities regarding on the website. We've been getting requests from residents who would like to see our link on your township links. So we're halfway there, and I hope, I'm not sure if Lower Allen is on there yet or not. It's just a link on your website that you're put in there, and the link pops up, and you go to the West Shore Rec, because believe it or not, there's a lot of residents that don't know too much about the West Shore Rec when they move into different municipalities. So hopefully that Lower Island will be participating in that. And if you didn't get all that information, notify me and I can get a hold of the gal at the West Shore Rec. But I think everybody should have got a copy of how to proceed to work on that. So other than that, again, just a very thankful for your support and continue what we're doing, and for the residents of all the municipalities that are involved in the West Shore Rec. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. If not, you know you can get a hold of me at any time. So,
Thank you, John. Fellow commissioners, do you have any questions for John?
I just want to say that I appreciate how the job that y'all have been doing to keep the cost to where it is. And we talked about this over the years. We couldn't possibly do for Lower Island residents what they get.
well, I appreciate that, and I will pass that on because we have a meeting coming up, and it's good to hear that because people don't realize all the programs that are involved with the West Shore Rec, and you know, it's throughout the year. And this is our 51st year. It's hard to believe. I've been involved with it going on almost 30 years now, and it keeps on growing. And it's just the townships like yourselves that really help support all the programs. So, and also one thing I forgot to mention, and using your facilities, that's a big major plus also, that we use your facilities. So thank you again, and I appreciate the time.
Well, you're very blessed with your full-time staff.
Mr. Black, you said it. I mean, with Todd and Eric, and last year I was here, and you guys did a real great job of making the dedication, giving them a plaque for the recognition of their work. And you're exactly right. And the two ladies that we have there also, they do a tremendous job. But Todd and Eric, I mean, they've been there for probably going on 20 years, if not more now. And really, they do a super job. And hope we can continue doing this. And hopefully, whoever's standing here next year can say $2.50 per capita. So.
We appreciate that, John.
Yes, sir.
And you and the four full-time do a very good job of selecting the counselors that you have in charge of each program, too.
That's a key component right there.
Right.
And it's, you know, I can't say enough of what all they do, and the volunteers that help out throughout the whole year. And we've really been blessed, and we just count our blessings every day that we can continue doing this as long as we can.
Right. Anybody in the audience have a question for Mr. Manito?
Yes? Oh.
Yes, Jeff.
Mr. Logan, we're not picking you up on the live stream.
Thank you for the presentation. My name's Jeff Logan. Thank you for the presentation. I try to stay plugged in with the things going on around the area. I didn't know anything about it. I recently moved in from Hampton Township. They're very active, and I'm delighted to hear that we have something like that. So, great. Look forward to getting active.
Here's my card. I'm also the chairman of Fairview Township. So there's my card, and there's my phone number and email, whatever you need. Help you out as much as I can.
I hope we connect our Facebook link to theirs.
Do we have a link, Tom? Jeff, make sure you get one of their catalogs of their programs. You'll be amazed.
Let me just show you the catalog real quick here, if I can take up here's what the catalogs look like. Now, this is the summer, this is the fall, and then there's also the spring and summer. So, I mean, this is a tremendous job that they do, and again, I want to thank you again very much.
Thank you for coming to us, John.
I appreciate it very
Keep
much.
up the good work.
All right, thank you. All right,
Thank
you have a good meeting now.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay, John.
Oh, there you go. Thanks.
And now we have the good fortune of a presentation regarding the Sheaford Road Bridge.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Kirk Stoner. I'm the Director of Planning for Cumberland County, and I manage our county bridge program. So with me tonight, I have Brian Emberg. He's with Herbert Roland Grubik, or HRG. They're the county bridge engineer for also York County and Cumberland County. And also have Heather Bittner with us tonight. She is a transportation planner, right? Make sure I get your title right. With York County. She also helps manage their bridge program. So what we wanted to discuss with you tonight was Sheepford Road Bridge. We've been working on this project for a while and wanted to give you an update on where we stood on the project and also get input from the Board of Commissioners as well as residents that would like to provide input as well. Okay. Good, I think we got it. Just for by way of background on the bridge, in case you're not familiar with all the technical specifications, the bridge was built in 1887. It's 114 feet in length. The bridge type is a through truss. That means something more to the engineers than it does for me.
There we go. That's about it.
You good? Okay. So the bridge type is a through truss bridge. The weight limit on it currently is 3 tons. So that's just about cars and light trucks only. The design status right now, it's they call structurally deficient and functionally obsolete. So they're technical terms indicating they're not built to modern standards, and also they have structural elements that are in need of repair. The width of the bridge is 14 feet, meaning a single lane. You can see we did some traffic counts out there in 2016 and 2019, but we're looking at about 300 vehicles per day out there. Background, I don't really have to tell everybody this. You all live here. You're familiar with where the bridge is at and the location. So how did we get here? Why are we here tonight? What do we need to talk about? So pre-2012, we were inspecting this bridge on an annual basis. Revealed ongoing deterioration to the structure. These bridges are old. It's built 1800s. So we do see that these steel truss bridges have deterioration on a regular basis, which is why we have to look at them on an annual inspection cycle. In 2012, we made some repairs to the bridge's stringers, which are structural components that help its weight carrying capacity. That was a small repair. I believe it was only around $50,000, $60,000. Is that correct? So it wasn't a huge repair. But I think with these steel truss bridges, what you have to understand, they're really like a house of cards. So they're put together very intricately with very different parts. So we made repairs to one part, but after we finished that and we continue to inspect it, we see that there's deterioration to other parts of the bridges, to the other bridge. So those ongoing inspections then from 2012 to 2016, we could see that. Each year there's more deterioration to the bridge. In 2016, in November, we held a public meeting to discuss not only the Slade Hill Road Bridge, but also Sheepford, to talk about the future of that. And we had a lot of residents show up at that, give us their input on the bridge and what they felt like the future should be. In 2017, then, we did have to reduce the weight posting to 3 tons. So it was at 5 tons. We had to reduce it to 3 tons due, again, to that deterioration. So that kind of kickstarted our process where we're working with York County and Cumberland County to discuss, based upon the public input we've had, based upon the engineering and technical standards we're looking at, what should the future of the bridge be. We met with our county commissioners here in June of this year to discuss the various concepts associated with the bridge. We also met with Fairview Township staff and Lower Allen Township staff to go over the status of the bridge and give them an update of where it was at. So the information you're seeing tonight, we have also presented to our county commissioners and your township staff as well. So what are we here to date on the bridge? It's in bad shape. We know that. So we've heard everything from, to rehab the bridge, to replace the bridge, to close the bridge. Keep it, but don't increase the weight carrying capacity because of quality of life issues. Make sure that we don't have a lot of pass-through traffic. It's close proximity to I-83 that could happen if we increase the weight capacity of the bridge to allow unrestricted vehicles to come through there. Preserve it for historic purposes, since it is an older structure. And then other folks said, hey, whatever's the most affordable and economical option, pursue that. So kind of the input received was all across the board. Some of the concerns that were documented, the first was mobility. So I've never been involved with a bridge project where we're discussing closure, where mobility hasn't been an issue and where there hasn't been concerns about mobility. So we're looking at around a 4-mile detour, depending on destination. So I think that you look at where we're at here in the location of Lower Allen Township, probably the detour affect folks traveling south more than those traveling north. So again, I think that mobility issue is dependent on where you're headed and where your destination's at. Flooding was an issue that was cited as well. But if it floods, we may see issues of being able to get out from that area. One issue with the bridge, though, it does have low underclearance. So when you look at the elevation of the 100-year floodplain out there, it's 356 feet. When you look at the incoming road, the approach is the elevation of the road's about 350 feet. So whenever it floods, you're going to see that the road's going to flood pretty quickly, and the bridge as well. Emergency access. We always want to talk about that, too. It's one of our key driving factors with our bridges. What will happen with emergency access? Well, right now, the 3-ton weight limit and the previous 5-ton weight limit, we couldn't get fire trucks, ambulances, we couldn't get the big stuff across it anyway. And in most cases, your fire department and your police department and your emergency medical service is responding from the Lower Island side, so they're not using the bridge. Weight posting, obviously that's an issue. Then we have issues with various vehicles being able to use it. That issue is really only resolved if we do a full replacement. Likewise, single lane is pretty obvious, 14 feet. We're only going to address that if we have a full replacement. The other issue is fracture critical. So I don't want to get into too much engineering detail and weeds, one, because I'm a planner, and two, because we just want to keep it at a high level so everybody understands what's going on with it. But fracture critical really means there's certain parts of the bridge that if damaged or compromised can really influence the entire structure of the bridge, that it could collapse. So you see that with some of these older bridges where you have certain components of the bridge that are really integral to its strength and structure. If they're hit the wrong way, you can see some catastrophic response to that. And we don't want to look at that into the future. We recognize that it's there, and we want to make sure that we know which members of the bridge they are, and we do what we can to protect them. But in a lot of bridges like that, that fracture critical structure will stay there unless a new bridge structure is built. And finally, cost benefit. With our county bridge programs, Heather and her bridge program, they have 96 bridges? 98, okay, all right. So 98 bridges countywide that they have to take care of. We have 28 here in Cumberland County. We're working through a capital improvement program right now. We're spending about $40 million to upgrade our bridge stock. So as we look at each decision with our bridges, we're looking at the cost benefit of each decision. So we see that some we replace, some that we rehab, some that we've closed. We're working right now. Bishop Bridge in Upper Allen Township, we've made a decision to close that one in the future. We're looking at some other bridges in Upper Allen Township and one in Dickinson Township to potentially close based upon some of these factors. So each bridge comes up, it's each unique factors that we look at and make sure that as we look at it, we're considering all options that are on the table. So the options that we're looking at currently with this bridge, first was close the bridge and provide cul-de-sacs. So we look at that as a permanent solution into the future. Eliminates the need for future expenditures, decreases the county bridge inventory. We don't see that we have another bridge to continually maintain. Some of the cons of that, obviously, it has impacts on mobility. One point of access, then, if we would cul-de-sac Sheepford Road, would be one point of access. Another option we looked at, too, is rehabilitate the bridge. So go in, fix the components of the bridge that are failing, and try and bring it back up to a more modern standard. Pros of that would be it'd be a lower cost than a replacement. It would help to preserve one of the older county, York County bridges. But some of the cons, though, would be that it's still a single-lane bridge. It's still fracture critical. It still carries weight restrictions because we wouldn't be able to bring it up to a higher weight limit. We'd still have to maintain it, and there'd still be ongoing maintenance costs. And then from a historic preservation perspective, by the time we're done switching out the components that are in trouble, that are rusting, that have problems, its historic character would be lost. So while rehabilitate the bridge is a feasible option, we don't see it as practical, especially when it carries a $1 million price tag. Replace the bridge is the final solution that we looked at. Obviously, this is another permanent solution. Looking at 50 to 100 years, we're set for then. No restriction for emergency services on any side of the bridge. But again, as we talked about earlier, it's really not an issue with the way that our emergency services are set up in Lower Allen Township. Long term, there's 2 points of access with the bridge. On the con side, though, it is the most expensive. We're looking at $2 million, and that's a construction cost. There's pre-engineering costs that are associated with that. We have to look at cost benefit. Again, about 300 vehicles per day. When we put the engineering on it, probably about $3 million. It's pretty low cost benefit there. And ongoing maintenance. Even though it's a new bridge, we still have to maintain it into the future. So as we looked at the different options, we shared this with the Board of Commissioners, Cumberland County. We shared it with your staff as we met with them. Our initial recommendation to the Board of Commissioners was to close the bridge when its condition warrants. So right now it's open, continuing to inspect it. When it hits a point where it's unsafe for vehicles to be on there, we would close it. We'd do a cul-de-sac on the Lower Allen Township side of the bridge. On the Fairview side of the bridge, you'd simply close the approach roadway down there. There's not not a lot going on over there. We'd also install a dry hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac if the water depth is appropriate. That allows for even improved emergency access for fire prevention on the Lower Allen side. And as we talk to the staff as well, there's option potentially for a pedestrian bridge in the future. I think that's longer term, but just keeping that in the mix that may be something you want to look into. And then finally, to market the existing bridge to potential new owners. So that's typical practice for historic bridges, that whenever you're looking at selling them or closing them, there's a PennDOT website where you can put it out, and then anyone that's interested statewide or even out of the state could come and potentially buy the bridge and have it move somewhere else. We do have a success story on that in South Middleton Township. We had a group out of Iowa that came in and bought the bridge, so it's still in place now. They're working to rehab it and make it into more of a kind of a pedestrian bridge and a little tourist attraction. So next steps, as we talked about this with the commissioners had directed us to take the concept back to the township, talk to the commissioners, talk to the residents, get their input, bring it back to the county commissioners. And when we say county commissioners, we mean also York County and Cumberland County as well. The bridge is jointly owned between our commissioners. York County is technically lead, but I can say when we work on these projects, we don't look at it as York County residents or Cumberland County residents or elected officials. We look at it together. I know Heather considers your residents her residents, and likewise in Fairview Township, we want to hear from everybody, and likewise with our elected officials to make sure that it's really a joint decision-making effort between the two counties. And that's what will happen after we take some of the input back to our county commissioners. They'll make a final decision then on the future of the bridge. So that's all I had tonight. I'd be glad to take questions from the Board of Commissioners and any of the residents as well to make sure that we have all the information we need.
Kirk, if I may, bridges are owned by the counties, not by the local municipalities. And in this case, do I understand this bridge is owned by York County?
Bridge is jointly owned by Cumberland and York.
Okay.
Yep.
And I have a question for Brian. Brian, when a structure like this deteriorates, what actually happens? Is it rust that's eating away at the steel?
Yeah, for a truss structure, it's rust. Everything you see is load carrying as opposed to a concrete bridge where the concrete's protecting the steel. And this has an open steel grid deck. So anytime, especially in the wintertime, vehicles go across, I don't think salt's being spread on the bridge, but salt's being drawn onto the bridge off the vehicles, the vehicle spray. And they're just tremendously difficult to maintain. When they were built, we weren't salting the roads. Mm-hmm. And that started in the 30s, I think. And so that's really the main reason is everything that's getting salt on it's just rusting apart.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Commissioners, do you have questions?
Yeah, I do. Kirk, the cul-de-sac, help me understand the reasoning for just helping people get to that end and don't know what to do so they can turn around and head back. Is that the practical?
You're correct, Commissioner. That's what it would be, so that when folks approach the bridge, they'd be able to turn around and come back and not be stuck. I know you have your existing Lower Allen Township Park out there now, and there's parking there. So that's what we were discussing with the staff. We were out in the field to kind of look at initially some different options of how that would work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess you said there were 350 cars per day, is that what?
About 300.
300. And so they would just have to figure out, we have no idea why they're crossing that bridge to go from where to where.
Yeah, the traffic counts we did in 2016 and 2019, we just did volume counts. There was no interviews with folks to figure out where they were headed for destination.
And York County is just as concerned about this as Cumberland County, I'm going to assume. Okay. And have you all just talked about what your solution would be to this bridge?
Yes, everything Kurt presented, we are always, when we get to this point, in 100% agreement by the time we present to anybody outside of our offices. So, yes, York County is on board and our commissioners are on board. But first, we always have to get that 100% consensus from everybody else as well until we go to a decision. So you can always be assured we're always in the same boat.
So for practical purposes, you both bodies have looked at this and said it's just not, you can't put the money.
Okay, if your county and Cumberland County own this bridge, why are you bringing it to the township?
It's a very good question, Commissioner. The reason we want to do that, is get input you may have on moving ahead. There may be local issues we're unaware of. Make sure that we've fully considered everything as we move ahead with our course of action. And likewise, to hear from your residents, to make sure that everything's been fully considered and that we haven't missed anything.
So you'd like us to intervene over the county?
No, I don't believe that's a request. The request is if you have input on the closure of the bridge, comments, questions, concerns, issues we should look at, we'd like to hear those at this time.
The options, that obviously, and I trust that you, I mean, I kind of followed this. When I moved into the county, I went, when we renewed our driver's license, one of them, we paid the extra $5, and I think that that's a direct earmark towards these projects,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And first of all, I want to say, great job when we moved in. I saw the breakdown. You guys wrote a great narrative of how that money was going to be spent, and it was very comprehensive and responsibly written, and it was easy to understand. And I also understand that $5 just isn't enough to do them all, right? So that's kind of the case here, if I'm understanding, is that to replace it or rehab it, $2 million probably wasn't there, and I'm saying the car count, and just kind of it doesn't have the value, right?
Correct.
Otherwise, we'd have to increase perhaps that. Actually, I don't think we can increase that fee,
No,
right?
no, Commissioner, you're right. That $5 fee is set by the legislation, Act
Right.
89, to be at $5, so we can't increase
So
that.
there's no funds in addition to that pool that comes in from the registration money, right?
No, we have other sources of funding from the county, but they're not nearly as large as the $5 registration fee. And as I said, with our county capital improvement program for our bridges, we have $40 million worth of work that's in process of being completed, and we just added some other bridges too. So it's mainly that cost-benefit comparison that drives a lot of the decisions. We have priorities out there with public safety issues that need to be addressed. And other bridges, not every bridge isn't important in some aspect, but we have to make tough decisions.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to these historical, I mean, 1887, when you come to these historical bridges and these landmarks, you know, it's a tough one. And my wife and I, we talked about it, you know, especially when we heard that it was on the radar. And coincidentally, before I came here tonight, I was actually playing racquetball with Jay Larry he's the executive director of the
Yeah.
Historical Society. And I mentioned to him that we were having this meeting tonight, and he was hoping that he could get over, but he's not going to come over. He had mentioned that there's a group that takes the bridges and tries to market them, and I heard that also, that was an option. If there were proceeds coming from that bridge, I mean, was that just going to the county coffers?
Typically, the proceeds are $1. We sell them for $1. You know, when we look at the sale, like on the other bridge that we did, no one really wants to pay anything for the bridge.
Oh, I see.
We typically give them the bridge. I mean, county code, we can't give it to them, so we have to bid it. So typically, folks will bid $1, and then it's their cost of either moving it or then rehabbing it or refurbishing, however they see fit.
And then finally, for me, head and bike study, and I'm just wondering, Aaron, was this bridge and
This is included in the plan as a long-term project, possibly in the future, because there are roads leading up to it, it could be a location for pedestrians crossing the bridge.
my guess is if nothing comes out of this initial process, we probably really won't get to a pedestrian bridge anytime soon, based on what it would take to really get that done. A connectivity plan like that.
If I just might, just one more thing. There's no plans right now. I mean, you're going to continue to look at this and we're not in a position where we have to close it off.
Correct. Correct, yeah. You know, the plan would be to leave it open as long as we can, And then we hit a point where, through our inspections, we're doing 6-month inspections.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at a point, based on the condition of it, it's mandated, we're inspecting it every 6 months now. So it's 3 tons, and when you get below 3 tons, you need to close it
Yeah.
because there's no vehicle
That's
legally you
much-
can
yeah,
use it then, right?
Even cars, okay. Thank you.
And I just had one other concern I forgot, and it's probably the biggest concern. So the pipeline now comes through up above that. I think there's, what, about 12 homes, 16 homes maybe down through there, all the way up to the Cary property, somewhere in that range. If this was a closure, I'm just trying to figure out how the residents there, if there's some options. I know Thompson Lane, they couldn't get that far because that Thompson Lane intersection is so close to the pipeline. I don't know if that would be an issue to get out, safety issue.
Yeah, I think we looked at some of that too, and I think, Thompson Lane's still there as access, and looking at some of the fields that are there as well, in a pinch, I think they would work.
To be able to just kind of
Correct.
work up that way. I see.
Are there other commissioners'
That's all I
questions?
have.
Okay, Jeff.
Thank you. Jeff Logan, 3212 Emerson Way. My question is regarding mobility, and if you were to close that bridge, I believe upstream or downstream is the bridge that goes over Old Forge Road, the next immediate, and then the other way is the Stone Arch Bridge, which is already stressed. So have you thought through the implications to the added traffic to the Stone Arch Bridge, which is already stressed, in this overall plan?
That's an excellent question. I probably should have covered that better as we were talking through the presentation. When we looked at Slate Hill Road and Sheepford Road together, that's where we were kind of looking at the bridges as a package. We're working right now on a full rehabilitation of Slate Hill Bridge, and we're doing that through the York County MPO, a Metropolitan Planning Organization. So we're doing that. Do you remember the date of when that'll be completed, Heather or Brian?
It's in design right now. Preliminary design's done. Final design will begin in January with hopes of bidding it in the middle of 2020. And construction would take place late 2020 into 2021. And it's going to be a full rehabilitation. It'll be much stronger than it is now. We're still going to load post it because it is historic, but it'll be way more capable than this bridge is of carrying any loads.
Yes, on the aisle.
My name is Joan Lanker. I have a lot of issues, so I may not get them all, but rattle them off as I come to mind.
Ms. Lanker,
Uh,
maybe we have your address for the record, please?
My address?
Yes, ma'am.
1942 Sheepford Road.
Thank you.
First off, the rerouting of the traffic with Ross Point has caused a tremendous amount of extra traffic down Sheepford Road. You guys have to come back and monitor it. I personally have redirected 3 18-wheelers trying to get across the metal bridge. Fortunately, they were able to turn around, and we were able to escort them to the turnpike, because when the turnpike was closed, the MapQuest and stuff is redirecting people down our road to get to the turnpike or 81. So right now, with Rossmoyne and then the turnpike having closures, we have an immense amount of traffic. Most of them are extremely heavy box trucks, delivery trucks, in addition to the 18-wheelers. You really need to monitor that. And if you want to get some money, put a camera down there, because I have taken pictures. I have literally followed trucks and taken pictures. I've come to the township and showed them pictures of license plates and saying, you got to do something about this because they're overweight. And if you want to make some money, fine them heavily by crossing that bridge until this gets corrected. The other thing is, you know, Thompson Lane is very narrow. There was an 18-wheeler trying to go down Thompson Lane, and there was another car trying to come the other direction. You can't do it. It is a major problem. Thompson Lane cannot support the traffic. We have more traffic with Ross Moines and York County going back and forth, and something has to be given consideration for a bridge and maintaining that. I love that bridge. I'd like to keep that bridge. You know, a lot of people use it for fishing. You kind of destroy the whole area with all the no parking signs that you put down there, but you know, it's very picturesque. A lot of people fish and use the park, but the traffic is been out of control and it is increasingly getting worse. So we definitely need to do something about keeping the bridge and maintaining the bridge. And if you want to get some money, find the people that go across, put a camera down, have somebody down there. Hell, I'll sit down there because this is my backyard. I'm not that far away. So those are some of the concerns I have. I really would like to see it stay. Thompson Lane cannot support it, just can't. I'm concerned about when there is flooding, because even Slate Hill Road gets flooded. If you take the Turnpike Bridge, if the Turnpike now widens in, they're talking about taking the Turnpike Bridge away off of Sheepford, we're stuck. We are stuck. And if there's an emergency with fire and ambulance, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen quickly. If we have to depend on Thompson Lane, it's not big enough. It's too dangerous, you know, up and down and all around. And the Turnpike Bridge is another issue that I really have concern about. So please hear me and think about it, and I really would like to see the bridge stay and fix it.
Yes, ma'am, on the other side.
I am Janice Links from 2036 Sheepford Road. We have the property that runs along the road and to the bridge. So the bridge isn't just an old bridge. The Old Ford Bridge, also known as Sheepford Road Bridge, has a national and local rating of 9 out of 10 in historical significance. This is according to historicbridges.org. It is also technologically distinguished. Built in 1887, it is one of 2 highly rare and highly historically significant Phoenix column through truss bridges on Yellow Breeches Creek, which is part of the Pennsylvania Scenic River System. So it's not just an old bridge. Any bridge that survives today with Phoenix columns is rare and should be given the highest possible preservation priority. We did a lot to try to find out. When I say we, I don't speak for everybody here, but for Dino and I who live at 2036 Sheepford Road. We found it very difficult to find information about the bridge online, and so we filed right-to-know papers, which we got quite a bit of information from. And by the way, the bridge is already listed on PennDOT's bridge marketing website. So making a recommendation to put it on the website, it's been there for at least 2 months. So it kind of feels like you guys have already gone ahead and done what you're suggesting we now do. It feels like it's a done deal. There's conflicting information about whether the bridge is going to be replaced. Currently, PennDOT says there's no plan to replace it. But according to Kara Russell from PennDOT, it is not necessary for the bridge to be there due to the 2017 traffic survey. However, in prior PennDOT Metal Truss bridge replacement meetings, it was said that the bridge would likely be replaced in the long run. And I've gotten this information from Nathan for historicbridges.org, who has been in touch with PennDOT. And the other thing about the traffic survey is I'd like to know what the magic number is in terms of how many cars are required to keep the bridge open. Is there a specific number we're looking for? Because we are a small township, I'm not sure what number that would be. The other thing, the bridge is owned partly by Cumberland County and partly by York County. On the Cumberland County website, it says that if the bridge is identified as a historic bridge, the National Historic Preservation Act of 1996 requires that the county conduct detailed analysis to document the infeasibility of rehabilitating a bridge to meet the county's transportation needs. including a plan to mitigate the loss of the historic resource if it cannot be rehabilitated. I'm wondering if that has been done, or is that required to be done? And wouldn't it be required to be done before the bridge was posted for sale? I'm not sure if this is the same thing, but Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act requires federal agencies to consider the effects of federally funded projects on historic properties and to afford the Advisory Council an opportunity to comment on such projects prior to the expenditure of federal funds. That might be the same thing as the first thing that I said. Also, the county website says, if the project impacts plants and animals, the Endangered Species Act requires projects using state and federal funds to identify the presence or absence of endangered species in the study area and develop a plan for avoiding or mitigating the impacts on those plants and animal species. I'm wondering if that's something that would be required for this bridge and if it's been done. If the project impacts landowners, and I feel like removal of a bridge would definitely affect the people who own land on the side of that bridge. That the project requires, the project requires you to contact the property owner because there might be a need for a right-of-way acquisition. And I will say that as the landowners abutting the bridge, we have not been contacted by anybody. We found out accidentally about this. You spoke about the public open house, and I have the numbers that approximately 100 people attended the meeting. 48% of those people favored rehabilitating the bridge. 20% favored replacement, and only 9% favored removal of the bridge. I'm wondering, what is the point of holding the public meeting if the public's voices have not been heard? There's also a memo sent to Heather Berner. I have all the information here, and basically the recommended strategy of the closal and removal was based on a review of the cost, the average daily traffic, available detours, and emergency response time. But nothing is said about the public's input. It doesn't seem like that was considered at all. And you mentioned, besides the historic value of this bridge and what we believe to be the need for it, there are safety issues for the residents of Sheepford Road. And you mentioned the pipeline. Thompson Lane is within yards of where the pipeline crosses Sheepford Road. If there is ever a problem there is no way we are getting out through Thompson Lane. No way. In addition, there have been many occasions in which it has been necessary to call the police about incidences, some serious, at Yellow Breeches Park. I have seen the police come across both sides of that bridge, both sides, and we certainly are able to view from where we own the property. Also, the cul-de-sac. Now, as if I'm correct, the cul-de-sacs are measured from the bridge up into the first intersection, which would be Thompson Lane. Okay, so that is 3,600 feet long. I think that Thompson, Lower Allen, has a limit, a town limit, on the length of what their cul-de-sac should be, and I have it at 800 feet, which can be extended to 1,500 feet, which is over 2,000 feet shorter than what will exist. Also, a cul-de-sac can serve a maximum of 20 dwellings. York County estimates the number of dwellings between the bridge and Thompson Lane at 18, and I would like that number to be checked and see if it's 20 or above. And I'm wondering how the township is going to address that situation. As far as a bigger bridge, Sheepford Road itself is not built to sustain any heavier traffic, so a bigger bridge would certainly not be for our best interest. And finally, in the past few years, the residents of Sheepford Road have undergone quite a few inconveniences. Traffic has been interrupted for long periods of time by the replacement of the Sunoco pipeline. Our quiet little street has become a raceway for drivers seeking an alternative to the posted detour for the Arcona roundabout. Now our bridge is in danger of being taken away. All of these things affect our quality of life. We are tax-paying citizens and expect our interests to be protected. And if anybody needs copies of any of the documents that I quoted, I'm prepared to email them to anyone at a later time.
Any questions for this lady?
And Mr. President, I don't have any questions, but I think Commissioner Holtzman's comment about 10 minutes ago bears repeating. Other than some of the cul-de-sac issues that you raised, and I applaud, I wrote my fellow commissioner a note, she did her homework, so congratulations on that. But this is really in the lap of the county, and they're here hearing your concerns, and I would hope that perhaps if you can answer any of the questions that were raised even here tonight, you should, but be careful, because I don't want you to walk out tonight thinking that Lower Allen has a whole lot to do with keeping that bridge.
Well, I guess part of the problem has been trying to actually figure out, you know, who has the say about it.
Well,
And
we
just
now know-
now we know, but
absolutely.
just finding that out was extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. So I just feel like, so now you're hearing my public comment, but you heard the public comments that were made in 2016. And I'm not sure they were listened to at all. And exactly how much weight do the public comments hold? And I would like to know how many cars is it necessary to cross the bridge to keep it open? And also about those particular studies and if they're required to be done and if they have been done.
Okay, so the first one on the magic number, I'm not sure there's a magic number of vehicles that are out there. Each bridge is different. In this case, we're looking at growth potential on Lower Island side, growth potential on the Fairview side, the number of trips, emergency access. We're just not seeing a huge transportation need. That's not to discount what you're saying. Any bridge that we've ever looked at closing, bridges that have been closed next to my house as well, I see that and I feel the pain as well, that there's times where you have to make tough decisions, where we don't have enough resources and we have to prioritize where we're putting those limited resources. I think that's exactly what's happening here. When you talk about the different studies, so when you look at historic preservation, that's typically required for projects that have federal and state funds. There are no federal and state funds in this project at the moment. But as you mentioned, we do have that listed on the PennDOT website. Why we're doing that is because the bridge is currently posted at 3 ton. It's not going to go any lower. If somebody else wants that bridge and wants it in its historical context where it's not falling apart, we need to look at preservation now, which is why we have it posted on that site. We've actually had a hit or two.
But then that's not a recommendation. That's something
It's part, exactly, so it's on our recommendation. Yes, it is done, so it is up there. But we're doing that thinking ahead. We could leave it open and say, you know what, we'll do this in the future, but as more traffic use it, it takes more of a pound, and suddenly it loses its historical significance, and it also loses its interest for anyone that's interested in preserving the bridge.
And let me just add that PHMC, Pennsylvania Historic Commission, is the one that actually, we were at a meeting and recommended the best practice for that bridge was to take it offline because of its historical significance. So that's when they contacted us and asked if they could put it on the PennDOT website for sale. And I can tell you that never thought in a million years that we'd even get a hit. It is very expensive for somebody to come in. They have to come in, take the bridge apart, move it to where they're moving, and put it back together. That's very expensive. We actually did get a hit on that, and when we gave them the figures and the structural integrity of the bridge, I have not heard anything since from that potential buyer. So that is why it was put on the website for sale, and we have done that with several months. I agree with you. And just also public comment. Yes, public comment is listed. Every public comment that we receive, at least I know, I don't know about you, but I can only speak for York County. The York County Commissioners will see every single public comment that I receive on the survey. They will be given that before they make any final decision. So, what the county commissioners do with the public comment, we try to summarize it for them, but every comment that was made, they will see. I assure you of that. And I think we got that, didn't we? Yes.
And so actually, so that was the historic preservation one. Then on the threatened and endangered species, likewise, if it's federal or state funds that's involved in our project, we have to go through a lengthy review of that. And absolutely, yes, we do that for every project. You talk to some of my other bridges in Middlesex Township where it's taken 1.5 years to do that review. Absolutely, we do that review every time. In this case, for removal of the bridge, if we remove the bridge, there's not likely to be as many requirements to do that. If there's some sort of replacement in the future, absolutely. And you can see those costs go up in a hurry because of some of those studies that we have to do. But that's required on all state, federal projects, anything you do, transportation-related or construction projects, you have to meet that test. And in many cases, it's a pretty stiff test. I believe those were your two. Oh, right-of-way, I'm sorry, ma'am. The other one, right-of-way, yes. So in this case, too, we don't need any right-of-way for the project. We're not widening the approaches to any of the roads. In many cases, when we do a bridge, we may need to take some right-of-way for the approaches, and we do work with property owners in those cases to pay them fair market value for the land that's needed for the project. Now, there may be construction easement, temporary construction easements, if we're in there taking the bridge out, that we need to potentially come onto your property to do that. Yes, there'd be access easements that would be negotiated with you and for that process, but there'd be nothing long-term that we would see a transfer of ownership from your property to the county or to the municipality. That's further down the road when we've made a decision, we've made a final decision. Did I capture all your questions? I want to make sure we got. Okay. Before you leave tonight, I'd be glad to give you, on the website you're on is the County Planning Commission website. My name's all over that. Always, feel free. Anyone here tonight, too, feel free. Give me a call, send me an email. I'm glad to talk to any of you. It's not a secret of what we're trying to do. I'm not ashamed of meeting with you and talking. I want to make sure that everybody has the right information. We may not agree on the final decision, but I want to make sure you have the information. I'll make sure I give you my contact information.
I live at 4 Central Boulevard, Campbell, and I just have a basic question, and that is under first off, under what authority does PennDOT have to sell this bridge? That's my first question. Because they sell land under the sale of transportation land tax, and personal items. This is not a fixture because you're not selling any land with it. So it's a personal item. Therefore, they really don't have the authority because it's under Act 56, which means it should be transferred over to DGS. And DGS doesn't want to be involved with selling bridges. So I'm just wondering how this all came about, where PennDOT is now in the market of selling bridges. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so when you look at the ownership is still with the county. So PennDOT doesn't own our bridge. They're simply marketing the bridge on behalf of the county. So as we've seen hits like Heather talked about, another project that I did in South Middleton Township, we had folks from Iowa come in. They simply marketed it, then we negotiated the transaction. So the asset stays with the county, and it's not PennDOT trying to market, or it's trying to sell something that we own.
Okay. Thank you.
Ma'am, can I ask spelling of your name for the record, please?
R-O-N,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the gentleman on the aisle.
Yeah, my name is Larry Ward. I'm at 1847 Ward Lane. Maybe you can answer my question. I was told that the Turnpike Bridge that crosses, Shreveport Road crosses, would be removed at one point. Is that true?
Actually, we heard that at the public meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and that would have been a big concern.
Mm-hmm.
I immediately contacted the Turnpike. That is not going to happen. They gave me 100% assurance of that. That bridge is going to stay. So we checked that out back in 2016 to make sure of that.
Because I was wondering if that gets removed and this one gets removed.
100% they said that is not being removed. There's no
Yeah.
reason to doubt that. I mean,
I guess we'll take that at face value.
I don't know where that came
Coming from the Turnpike Commission, so. Okay, because I'm just saying, if that bridge would get removed in the future and this one, we lost this one, then all the traffic and impact would be, all concentrated on Thompson Lane. And at that time, we would have to do some improvements in Thompson Lane, at least get it a little bit wider and safer. A lot of tree trimming would need to be done, because even the school buses, they both run that way. And they
can't even pass each other, so that's something we would have to think about. So, yeah, like I said, I just heard that the turnpike was going to widen the turnpike and remove that bridge and not put it back, and
Yes, and who I talked to
Sure.
said that was never, ever considered. I don't know where that came from, but we checked that immediately. Those checks.
all right, so that's major, one of my concerns about it. And, okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Larry. In the back row, the lady in the center.
My name's Barb Underkoffler. I live at 2001. And my main concern is, I'm pretty easygoing, so I really don't care about the bridge, open or closed. I've even gotten used to the traffic. But what you are talking about, the weight limit of the bridge, and what she had said, I live close enough where when the big vehicles come down, they have to turn around and come back. They do not turn around and come back. How much, I mean, is there a chance that bridge is gonna fall in the creek? And maybe you need to tell our people, explain to them how serious that is? Because there are probably 50 a day. Our neighbor across the street has a bigger truck, and I didn't know about weights and stuff, but he said even his truck is too heavy, basically, to be going across that bridge. And there is every landscape business, every business is going across that bridge every day. And that's all I have to say. You can close it, open it, I don't care.
Mrs. Underkoffler,
But it is the weight. It is
Yeah.
terrible. I have emailed the township.
Thank you for your comments, and you know, since the detour's been in play, because we live on the corner of Thompson and Lisburn, the traffic has been crazy. I mean, the truck traffic and the tall trucks are just.
I can live with the traffic.
It's
for a
very
couple
difficult,
months.
but once,
But the weight.
the interesting thing, the silver lining is that if the bridge goes away, everything quiets down. And the detour's gonna be gone soon
But
anyhow.
maybe those people now know, hey, this bridge is out here, now we can go.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a
But,
concern.
I mean, maybe it needs to be inspected more often now, because those vehicles are going across it every day.
There are people
If they can
abusing,
fit through it, they're going through it.
they're
They are
abusing the
not
bridge
turning
regularly right now. I would inspect it maybe even more frequently.
There is a rare vehicle that turns around and comes back up our road.
Good.
Because they have to come past our house. My husband, we sit in the living room, I sit out on the deck, and they don't come back.
Yeah, so that's great information. I would request anyone that's here tonight, if you do see an overweight vehicle, be glad to give you my information. Please follow up with me, because I do follow up with some of the companies.
Many every day, though, how are we gonna keep them?
Whichever ones you have, if you have a license plate number and a business, please give it to me.
I'm not really into turning people in either. I would like somebody to be aware of it, and like she said, fine these people.
But I think that's the,
Excuse me, folks.
One at a time, please.
Folks, we cannot pick up your comments sitting out in the audience. If you have a comment, please come up to the podium.
so the issue.
One at a time.
So the issue with that, your eyes and ears, we've actually partnered with the Lower Island Police Department to do an enforcement detail on Slate Hill Road, which is very effective. We can do that again, but keep in mind, enforcement details are typically once, and I think the Lower Island Police Department has a lot going on from what I understand, so that enforcement details may always not be the top priority, so we can get them in when we can and when they're available. Otherwise, the folks that live there, your eyes and ears. On some of my other bridges, I have folks that call me on a regular basis, and we have been successful. I know of one instance I called a business, they fired the guy that drove the truck. So while you're saying you see this stuff, I mean, if you see something, say something. I'm not out there. If you can get me a license plate number, description of the vehicle, if it's a landscaping business, give me their name. I will follow up with them.
We could drive ourselves crazy doing that every day.
Well, if you don't do it, well, there's no, if you don't say anything.
Every vehicle that we see.
What?
No, you don't. I sat out on my deck one day, you think I don't have anything else to do. I counted vehicles for 1 hour, 100 vehicles in 1 hour, which, like I say, I can learn to live.
I'm giving you an option. The option is you can take down a license plate number and a vehicle description and let me know. I will follow up on that option. If you choose not to pursue it, that's your own prerogative, but you're not going to see any improvement if you don't.
The lady in the burgundy on the aisle. All right, you'll be next, ma'am.
My name's George Page. My wife and I, we live at 1965 Sheepford, in between the two ladies, first ladies that came up here. Like I say, I was down at the bridge here many times from between, they've been working on it so many times. You get down, people, they put a bar through the center of it. That's going to fix it. It didn't fix it. They do other stuff. They just do maintenance and little bitty stuff instead of either fixing or taking it out. That's what pisses some of us off. Mr. Dean up there, or Commissioner, out at the Thompson Lane, when they were doing when they were doing his pipeline, I wouldn't like to live there because he had so much narrow, Thompson Lane so narrow, it took a lot of his. He had to really fill in and make a lot of repairs on his ground there from the people doing that. And another thing, these roundabouts, we have 2 roundabouts coming in now, and yet New Jersey's getting rid of them, and yet we can't even put a bridge up. But it's up to me. I can take it either way, or take it or leave it. But either fix it or take it out, one of the two. And like I say, Thompson Lane is a hazard. About 5, maybe 10 years ago, a young man was coming home, probably drunk, 16. He had an accident up there past Dean's place there. Now there's a stop sign. That stop sign wouldn't be there if it was wide enough they can use it. But if 2 people try to pass on Thompson Lane, you're in trouble. And like Joni said there, this one day I saw this truck come by. I was outside, and my wife said, "What's that?" That's a 53-footer. Turns around, next thing, here comes Joni and her husband down to take it back out again. She said, "That's the 4th one we had today." And that's just part of it. So either take the bridge out or fix it right. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Ma'am, in the burgundy on the aisle, did you want to talk?
Again, I just want to bring up with the pipeline, that has a concern because if there really would be a problem on the pipeline, we would not be able to get out. We would not be able to go out Thompson Lane. We would not be able to go out Sheepford Road because it crosses over. And since they've done the construction on the pipeline, our road on Sheepford is destroyed. We have asked to have them come back and repair where they actually, did all the equipment for the last 4 years, it seems. They have destroyed the road, and they still haven't patched anything. So this winter, it's all going to break up, and it's going to be a real mess on both sides. So at that point, you literally have to drive one car. You cannot drive 2 cars passing each other. You have to wait because it is so broken up and muddy from rain and so on. But really, the pipeline becomes an issue with us being able to exit. Also with flooding. We actually have trouble there at Gary's farm where it floods. So we have flooding, with the bridge and flooding there by Thompson Lane. So, we're kind of landlocked. And we really do need to be careful of fire and ambulance and having, be able to be rescued if there is an emergency. Our neighbor, we had an ambulance just about a month ago, and they, have to go around. And Thompson Lane is extremely dangerous, as everyone has been saying. So again, I'd like to stress that the bridge stay. I really think you need the monitor, and I suggest the cameras. I have taken pictures, and I have come down here and shown that people here at the township of trucks with license plates. Okay, yeah, we know about it. But you really need to do something about it because the bridge will be coming down sooner than later if we don't do something soon. And even if, Ross Moyne is running around, it's true. People now know there's a shortcut. And York County is farmland. That's going to get developed just like Ross Moyne has been developed. And that's another factor that needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once? Okay, the young man in the back.
My name's Wesley Ward, and I live at 1847 Ward Lane. Just a couple instances, you did your survey for the traffic going over that bridge in 2016, and you had in 19. Was that before or after the road detour?
June.
So that was before the road detour.
When did the road detour go into
Over
effect?
the summer.
July.
So it was before the detour.
But go ahead.
With that being said, where the 300 vehicles over that bridge a day, then you take that number and then you project a lifespan of that bridge if you have 300 vehicles going over that bridge a day. My curiosity is, since with that detour going in, let's say if now 1,200 cars go over that bridge a day, what does that do to the lifespan of that bridge? You know, if you were to keep it in for its lifespan and then close it, and if 300 cars would go over it a day, let's say it lasts another 4 years, and then you close it. Well, with 1,200 cars going over it now a day because of the detour, does that shorten the lifespan by 6 months?
Yeah, I can answer that one. Certainly, higher levels of traffic, particularly truck traffic, can shorten the life of a bridge. There's no linear, there's no equation. You just base it on the inspection that you do periodically and see the wear and tear, and you base it on that. So it's not a predictable type thing. You base it off of the inspections that we do periodically.
Yeah, because the weight limit now is at 3 tons, which should be 6,000 pounds. So if you run a 28-foot box truck over that bridge, let's say weighs around 36,000 pounds. Obviously, that bridge is under a lot more stress, considering it's 114 foot long and only 14 feet wide. So that stresses those components way over the max limit that you have set. So that really, one box truck, that weight going over that bridge is like the equivalent to 80 vehicles going over that bridge, you know, in a time frame. So if you have so many things like that going over that bridge at one point, that really deteriorates that bridge. Another thing is that is up for bid, and you say, you know, sometimes people buy it for $1 because, you know, if they need to take that and preserve that bridge or redo it however they want to please, it costs money. But who's to say that a scrap company cannot come in and buy that bridge for, let's say, $150, outbid any historical society, and can come scrap that bridge? So what is there, like, do you guys then get picky and choose what gets done with that bridge? Or can any individual off the street come in and say, I will give you $200 for that bridge, sold, you have a year and a half to do it, and then next thing you know it, we have just a bunch of midnight people in there dicing and pulling stuff out of the creek, scrapping it. How does that process work? I mean, I just
No, they're good questions. And, you know, when we do historic preservation, if we do put it out for bid, for sale, we would screen who's responding to the ad to make sure that it isn't just a scrap company. We would be very specific that it's for historic preservation purposes to see what their intent is.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be open to, you know, like your example there of, you know, someone coming in and bidding $150, and then we find out they're a scrap company and they're coming in to get rid of it. Our intent would be that we're putting it out for sale to someone to leave it in place and rehabilitate it, or dismantle it and reassemble it somewhere else, and we'd work with whoever the bidders are to make sure that their intent is clear. When we've done this before, we only received one bid, and that was at the 11th hour after we talked to them and encouraged them to bid.
Okay. You said also to buy that bridge and to leave it in place and restore it. Now, let's say if I bought that bridge for $10 and I wanted to paint it up and, you know, fix it and keep it there, then is it my responsibility to maintain that bridge with it being there? Because I could buy that bridge and say, I could set concrete barriers up on either side and say, leave it for walking bridge, which would eliminate any cost for a walking bridge, or even having to propose that. You could use that for another 15 years as a walking bridge. And then you wouldn't have to have any cost of removing any danger to the environment as far as removing it goes. But who is responsible for maintaining it?
Let me just say one thing, because we always offer bridges. If private owners, when they find out the liability insurance they have to cover for that bridge, it makes it a no deal. It's just not feasible for a property owner to own the bridge.
So if I would own that bridge, I'd be responsible for maintenance and upkeep.
and to have liability insurance on it as well, and that is a big, big ticket item.
Okay.
It makes it not very feasible. It's unfortunate, I agree.
Okay.
It's unfortunate, but
Yeah.
that is one of the, people hear that, we had that with Bishop Road Bridge. They really did consider, they looked into it, and as soon as they found out the liability insurance, they did.
Okay. And then my last statement would be, if you did deem the bridge not be suitable for any traffic or anything like that, have you just considered the fact of maybe we'll just barricade it off on either side and leave it there for its historical purpose and leave it there for the parks, as far as fishing across, or just walking back and forth as far as fishing and just pedestrian traffic, even bicycles or anything like that?
I think with,
You've considered that?
Sure. Yeah, I think whenever we looked at this and some other projects we've done, when we do that, the county still has maintenance responsibility and liability responsibility as with any other owner. And in some cases, if people are walking on it, fishing on it, our commissioners in particular, as we've worked on these, they're not interested in assuming more liability. They're interested in reducing their liability in projects.
You can't use liquid.
Exactly. Then it's a, right now with our bridge program, we have our $5 registration fee. We have state funds coming from PennDOT liquid fuels, that part of your gas tax that you pay. They're used to preserve and maintain our bridges. If they're taken offline, then it comes out of the general fund. Then we're looking at all of our taxpayers, our real estate taxpayers in the county are paying the bill to maintain that bridge, which, we haven't talked to them about that, but I think everyone's pretty comfortable right now, the fact that users are paying for the bridges to maintain and replace them and not our rank and file property taxes.
It is a shame that, I'm young and I'm still getting into everything, but I do know that I pay taxes, I see it on my paycheck each month, and it's a shame to see that taxes that I'll be paying from now until the day I die don't go to help preserve or upkeep or maintain anything close to my home. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I just want to ask, how are you going to be keeping the public in the loop from now on so that we're able to find out what's going on? Will there be announcements? Will there be things posted on your site? How will we find out what's going on so that possibly we can still remain a part of the process?
So I would encourage everyone, make sure you signed in tonight, have your contact information. We'll be asking the township for that list of contact information. Our next steps, be meeting with the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners. Encourage you to come to that meeting, provide input to the county commissioners that you provided tonight. Again, they'll be considering that input in addition to everything else that we presented tonight to make the final determination. So I think, sure you're signed in. We'll be sharing information with the township too. They've been great partners in putting it out through newsletters or to your residents about what's going on so that everyone stays in the loop.
When is that commissioners meeting? Kurt? When is that commissioner?
Yeah, it has not been set yet, Commissioner.
Okay, and with that, I think we're going to wrap this up. And Kirk, you've done a wonderful job of getting the information to us. I want to make sure that the residents from Lower Allen understand that that is not our bridge. We simply provided a meeting place tonight, and there are going to be pros and cons to what happens to the bridge. So I want to thank you all for being here. Brian, Kirk, thank you very much for bringing us the information. Sure. And we're going to move on with our agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address any item on the agenda? Yes, come up to the podium.
Lee Bothell with Alpha Consulting Engineers, representing IMT LLC for the subdivision land development plan for 1025 Audubon.
You do wish to speak on a plan?
No, I might have misunderstood Dan, but he wanted me to make it known that I was here to represent the plan tonight.
She's here in case you. Okay.
Item 10B.
It's 10B.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Seeing no hands. I was remiss in not announcing at the outset of the meeting that Mr. Young is absent tonight with excuse. Next item is the consent agenda. Any commissioner, staff member, or anyone in attendance who would like to have an item on the consent agenda removed for further discussion can request so. Is there a request for the removal of any items on the consent agenda? And for your information, the consent agenda is composed of the proposed decision on the Piper stormwater fee appeal, which we heard a presentation on at one of our last meetings. And the second item is all the department reports for the month of September.
Mr. President, I would like to get a clarification with respect to 7A, the stormwater fee appeal. Since I had to recuse myself from that, I somehow need to go on the record as not voting on this tonight because I did not sit in on the hearing.
Okay, well then, would it satisfy you if we took these items one at a time?
That would probably be a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you for bringing that up, Rick. If there's no other comments, then we will take action on proposed decision on the Piper stormwater fee appeal. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
And this is, and what you're saying, Dean, is you are moving to accept the,
Proposed decision on the Piper stormwater fee appeal.
as written by our representing attorney.
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I'm going to
Opposed?
abstain. I'm going to abstain, Mr. President.
Yes, yes. Madam Secretary, did you get Mr. Shin's abstention? The second item that we are asking for a motion on would be the department reports for the month of September for community development, facility maintenance, fleet maintenance, township engineer, public works, and public safety. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? And I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Under your president, I present for your consideration, commissioners, the check register of October 25, 2019 in the amount of $175,877.38. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, if there is any business pertinent to the township, but not necessarily on the agenda, I'd like to see a show of hands. Seeing none?
I have one thing. Just, I have a question, based on what we had just heard regarding Thompson Lane and Sheepford Road. When that, assuming that bridge will probably close at some point, traffic's gonna close down, we're not gonna have a detour through there. I'm not quite sure how that's gonna, the traffic will play out on both Sheepford and Thompson. I know that Sheepford isn't, the greatest road for heavy traffic, and we've talked about that with that landscape business when they came through, I think, last year. And people mentioning widening Thompson Lane, let's say, or even Sheepford. I mean, I'm not sure, is that even doable at this point? I guess everything's doable, but I mean, it just seems like it's a mile, like Thompson Lane's a mile long. And, I mean, the right-of-way can't be that big, and the way that everything flows, it would almost seem like it would just be an enormous feat to try to do, right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's a simple answer.
If that's the question, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I can't imagine it hasn't come up, and maybe it has in the past years when Liberty Point decided to build, I mean, it had to have come up, right? With Roland back there.
Yes.
When they built, I mean, somebody had to have mentioned that at some point, but I guess it's just something that wasn't ever in the cards, or?
Widening the road?
Yeah, I'm just
No.
curious. I've heard that several times in the last couple of years. That's all. I was just,
No, we've not looked at any,
just because of
Plan
how
to do that.
major of a project it would be, right?
yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Under our township engineer, Dan, would you take these, please?
I will. First item, 10A, construction is progressing on the roundabout at Lisburn and Ross Moyne. We are in receipt of the request for payment number 2, Dependency Supply. Because of the size of these payments, this comes before the Board of Commissioners for action.
Okay, we have confirmed that the work that they're invoicing for has been done, Dan?
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to authorize payment for, this is Pensy, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
For Pensy Supply.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second.
In discussion, now, this is a pass-through, right? I mean, we're
Yes,
really
we
not
get
footing the
reimbursed
bill.
for these
Okay,
funds, yes.
good. Call for the question.
Now I'm calling for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dan?
Okay, item 10B is the SLD docket 2019-12. It's a land development plan for IMT at 1025 Audubon Road. Just for orientation purposes, I have the tax mapper up. This is Route 15 and the Wesley Drive, Ross Mine Road interchange. This is the dairy farmer, DFA plant right here along Gettysburg Road, Audubon Road, and the parcel in question is right here at the end of Audubon Road where it dead ends at Route 15, kind of behind and between the DFA plant, between the plant and Route 15. You may remember some previous uses on this lot. It's currently being used just as a parking lot for a contract service. In the past, there was a carpet business, and I believe there may have been the Curve Inn at one time on this property, so a lot of history to it. But right now, it's primarily a lot that's paved with compacted gravel. There's a small building on the lot right here, and what is proposed here is to use that small building for an office and to construct an accessory or a storage building to go with that office building, 2,785 square foot, one-story storage building, primarily for vehicles, equipment, or materials. Because of the existing conditions there with the compacted gravel, they are actually going to reduce the impervious coverage of the site by turning some of that compacted gravel around the perimeter here back into vegetated area. There were 4 waivers that were requested for the sidewalk, curb, and fill-in paving along the street frontage on Audubon Road, and also for street tree requirements. And I'll show you here the reasoning. This is as you were traveling south on Audubon Road towards Route 15. This is the fence along the DFA property. That's that existing building on the subject property. And you can see along the road here, the fence has been installed right along the right-of-way line, the property line. And there's also, I believe, the underground water main is along the frontage here. And this was the reasoning that was presented to the Planning Commission for the combination of what is there and the location of the property at this dead end. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval of those 4 waivers that were requested. So with that, Lee Bothell is here from Alpha Engineers. If there's any questions for her or any questions that I can answer.
Dad, is this the property that used to have a strawberry patch on it?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, I'd like to take the waivers first. So, first, I'm looking for a motion on the waiver of the requirement to provide sidewalks along all street frontage for this subdivision land development plan, which is number 2019-12. Do I hear such motion?
Second.
Okay, the motion and the second is to not require. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, I'd like to have a motion on the waiver for the requirement to provide curbs on all street frontage for subdivision land development docket number 2019-12. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is a waiver. I'd like to hear a motion on a waiver of the requirement contained in section 192-57.b to provide fill-in paving for subdivision land development docket number 2019-12. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is a motion to approve a waiver of the requirement of section 192-58C to provide street trees along street frontage for subdivision land development docket number 2019-12. Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
And
All-
that is to not have trees.
That's correct.
Okay.
All those in favor to not require the planting of street trees, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the motion to actually approve subdivision land development docket number 2019-12, the land development plan for IMT LLC at 1025 Audubon Road. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the subdivision land development plan. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Dan, do you have anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Under finance, Tom, are you handling this or Rick?
Yeah, the goal here is to present to you and discuss all the funds that are budgeted except for the general fund and the fire fund. The first one we could look at, I believe you have the packet that was given to you that have these funds in them as the proposed budget as they currently stand. We have the streetlight fund that accounts for streetlight assessments and the electricity to provide that service. There's really no significant changes there. The rate can stay the same for next year. Any questions on the streetlight fund? We can probably cover these pretty quickly. Moving on
questions,
then to the sanitation fund. I'm sorry.
No questions on the streetlights?
No questions.
Okay, go ahead, Rick.
The sanitation fund, which accounts for the sanitation fee and the collection service that we provide to the residents. Again, there's really no significant changes here. The rate can remain the same for next year.
Well, Rick, are we, or Tom, are we looking for, when is the next time we have to negotiate?
It runs out in 2012. I'll let Tom elaborate.
2020.
I'm sorry, 2020.
Oh, 2012.
It did run out in 2012
My bow tie almost
too.
spun around on that one.
It's, we're on an extension right now, and we have one additional extension available to us. I do understand that the rates are going up quite a bit from talking to some other municipalities that had to negotiate this year. Cumberland County just increased the fee to them. I got a letter from Penn Waste asking if we would consider allowing them to increase our fees this year because of the additional county fee, I don't think I have to ask the board's opinion on that, but as they say, contract's a contract. But again, I think I would probably look at some increased fees when we do negotiate a new contract, or actually, if you choose not to take advantage of an extension, we'll be actually going out to bid and taking bids from whoever wants. Usually, there's 3 big players in the market, but we could get bids from other contractors as well.
And you'll feel the pulse of that and suggest what we would recommend we do.
Certainly. My intention is to contact the general manager for Penn Waste and see how we might sit down and what kind of rate that we can talk about in order to extend. I'm not very hopeful because with the additional county fee and with the additional additional costs that they have now for recycling, since the Asian market has dried up and they're now paying for it out of their own pocket, I expect fees to be considerably higher.
This would be in starting in 2021.
Correct.
Right. So we could be talking to them in 20. So you're going to contact the manager and try to get an idea of where things are going to be.
Yeah, we're going to try to get an idea of where they're heading and seeing if we can keep our fee increases as low as possible by negotiating an extension rather than going out to bid. And going out to bid is generally, you know, it puts companies in a competitive environment where they're going to come in with their lowest bid, you assume, and sharpen their pencils. But from some of the rate increases I've been hearing from other municipalities, they're quite steep. You know, we may be looking at 40, 50% increases.
40 or 50%?
Yes, sir.
Well, that sucked the air out of the room, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
Anything else on the sanitation fund?
That's enough, Rick.
Yeah, that was more than I would.
Good news is we're good for 2020.
Yeah, we're fine for next year. Moving on to the Highway Aid Fund, the projected liquid fuels tax that is shared with us is a number provided by the state. It decreases slightly after several years of very sharp increases. Nothing really significant, though. As far as the expenditure side, we do, which is a little bit unusual for us, have one capital item that's for a mouse ear large plow. It's a replacement item that would be down under 432, 730. This is also a street program year, so we have money in there to pay for street paving services.
Rick, I had a question on, if I could take you back, the total payroll. What is the percentage at 85? What does that 8,500 represent percentage-wise increase?
Oh, that is about a 20%, somewhere around there. Yeah, it doesn't have to do with pay increases. It has to do with just a general increase in the amount of time we're devoting to snow plowing.
Okay, thank you.
So we're anticipating 2020 is gonna, I mean, we're anticipating it being more like what 19 is. Right, 19.
Yeah, it's very hard to,
19's going over.
it's very hard to predict. I mean, I adjust the formula from time to time. One thing's for sure, it's not going to be right on, but it's the best I've got for the moment. Hopefully less.
Back in the 90s, I used to try to predict snow shovel sales for Home Depot and Lowe's for True Temper, and It was just like taking a dart and
Exactly. This isn't much different. We know we'll have some, we just don't know how much or when.
Tell you a secret I used to use when I did the budgets is, I always used the Old Farmer's Almanac, and I was pretty accurate. I don't know if that it was, but it was a good tool to use, trying to predict snow for the year.
You didn't use the woolly caterpillar?
Well, that was our backup, sort of. That was
Great.
the affirmation.
Okay, any questions for Rick on Highway 8?
Moving on to debt service, I mean, there's really not a whole lot to talk about. This is pretty much what it is. The only thing new is the 2019 capital lease payments, of course, are added in, and some have fallen off, such as the truck tower lease. That was a long-term capital lease, and we're finally done with that this year and will not be in next year's budget. Same way with the 2013 and 14 capital lease. They're paid off now, and they'll fall off the budget as well. Any questions there?
Rick, we seem to have quite a relationship going for some time with Sun Trust, and it seemed to stop all of a sudden. Why did that happen?
Their rates were way ahead. I mean, we did this competitively every year. Their rates blew everybody else out of the water until 1 year, they just stopped altogether. They dropped their municipal business, which is a shame for us.
They dropped their municipal business?
Yep, they hadn't been on a thing since. Not just us, but any Pennsylvania municipality, to the best of my knowledge. That's what they told me.
Did they give a reason?
They had grown, you know how banks are, they tend to merge. They had merged, become larger, and they were just getting out of the municipal market in Pennsylvania. So they just withdrew.
Aren't municipal loans kind of coveted?
They're safe and steady.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they would be worth having, but apparently Sun Trust sees it differently.
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
Last is the Capital Improvement Fund, which houses several miscellaneous things. As far as revenue coming in, the most significant was the cell tower leases. As you probably recall, with Tower Point, we had a large lease that was $128,000 a year coming in. That is done coming in. We had a smaller lease with AP Wireless of $19,200. That will continue through next year, and then that one is done. Other than that, the only expenditure item is for the Gettysburg Road project, which we think of as a TDD project, Transportation Development District. So that money's in there. We'll also have offsetting grant up above to cover that.
What line item are you looking at, Rick?
The money coming in would be $345,300. The money going out would be $438,700,
Thank you.
which you can see they equal.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Rick, am I reading this right, that our tower truck loan is now done?
Yes. And that's really it on the other fund budgets, unless anybody has any questions.
So if I'm reading this right, in the end of 2019, we're going, in the capital improvement budget, we're going to have a $276,590
That's what's,
surplus?
yeah, that's what's projected.
How does that, so then what?
That's money that the general fund's paying back on the leases. If you remember, we transferred money from the general fund to the CIP fund to loan back to the general fund. So it's really money we're paying ourselves, unfortunately, except for the cell tower, which is new money coming in.
So that's self-financing, which
Right.
saves us paying interest to Sun Motor or Sun
Yes,
Company or whatever it is,
yeah, over
SunTrust.
10,000 a year.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that money's not really.
No, it's good to have.
No, it's
for
not.
For the sake of a general
No.
budget, let's say.
No,
Gotcha.
it's not,
Okay.
unfortunately.
This is a budget question, I suppose. Tom, you still see us meeting Monday?
Yes, in fact, probably we'll probably need the second scheduled meeting in November as well.
And
We're-
is that a 6 o'clock? I don't have that budget stuff here. Is that 6 o'clock?
The one, on Monday, the 4th, I think?
It's the 6th.
Yeah, that will be 6 o'clock.
No, it's the 4th. Yeah, it's the 4th, yeah.
The one
6
2
o'clock.
weeks after that would be probably at 7 o'clock, because that's the same night that the Development Authority meets.
I have to let COG know then I'm not coming.
We
Commissioners, any
already-
other questions for Rick on other funds?
Not for me.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Item B is a process I think we're all familiar with, electronic payments to vendors. We currently do not make electronic payments. This would be where we initiate a payment for an accounts payable bill. And the question is to consider that. Things have changed where there are some instances where it would be of benefit for us. In particular, capital loan payments, or capital lease payments, rather, which we make now by check. We are earning a lot more on our idle cash now. We can keep the money longer if we make electronic payments and make it right the day before they're actually due. With checks, they don't give you a grace period, so you've got to get the check out to make sure it's there on time. They're not going to take the postmark. Another area where it might help is with utility payments, because sometimes the utility pays or applies our payment to a different utility account, and we've got dozens of them. And that creates a penalty, and then we have to call and hassle with them and get the penalty removed. So I wanted to get your feeling on doing that in those certain cases. The disadvantage that I see is that currently you have the option of denying any payment we want because everything's in a check. So if for any reason you decide we're not going to make a payment, you have that ability, just like you would have tonight if you didn't approve the check register, because the checks don't go out until that register is approved. In this case, money would be leaving the township before the check register is approved. Now, these would appear on the check register, and the invoice would still be put in the same group that Ed signs. It's in a big, thick folder of all the invoices with the checks, but obviously there'd be no check assigned to it. And so I just wanted to find out if that's something we would be interested in doing or not.
As far as I can see, I don't think I've ever been involved with disapproving the check register. I mean, just trusting that all the numbers are good. I mean, I think if it's more efficient, my vote would be to kind of go, have that process, the electronic payment process, as part of the township's practice.
You're speaking in favor of,
Doing the electronic payments as they see fit.
well, the big advantage, as I see it, is we're going to hold the funds in our account longer and pay the bill at the 11th hour.
Correct? Yeah, it's actually, I think it would actually pay us to do that now, because we're earning a lot more.
So you would pay only the larger invoices that
Oh,
way?
yes, just, yes. I mean, most of them, I think we would still want to check for, or just do a check. But things like the capital lease payments come to mind. Bonds, we have to wire that money, so that wouldn't, I guess that is an exception now, because we're wiring the money for the bond payments before you approve them. But possibly health insurance, which is a, you know, a fairly
big
large
one.
monthly check.
Are those amounts predetermined in advance?
Yes.
Where we could just back things up and see those payments
Yes,
coming a month, maybe the meeting before?
In the case of capital leases, I could give you, and I already have prepared, I don't have it here with me, but I could email you the complete debt schedule of the exact amounts that would be paid and the exact date they're due for all of next year. And for all of this year too, if you want it. Yes, that can be done. Now, for health insurance, that can change monthly depending on who comes and who goes and who has a baby or gets married. And that wouldn't be possible, but certainly the other ones would.
Doing this electronically, is there any cyber risk?
There's always, you can't eliminate it completely, but it's as safe as it could possibly be. In this case, it would be our computer system that initiates it, not the vendors, and not the banks. It would be us. It would be our current software anyway is with Edmund, so it would be going through there, and they have all the checks and balances now. Because we do it now that way, like, for example, for our customers, our utility customers that pay by ACH, you know, it goes through that same process. So it would be as safe as that is.
But our numbers would be bigger than an individual utility
Oh,
customer.
for sure, yes, much bigger.
And if it's basically the big numbers that we're doing, and that's my concern, if we're gonna take a hit somehow. Don't want to be on one of those. There is no risk other than a check getting lost in the mail, which you can always stop payment on. I mean, I don't know that I'm opposed to this, but, that's the question.
Are electronic payments FDIC insured like checks?
It's just your account that's insured. It's
Oh,
not,
okay.
yeah, it would not cover, like a cybercrime. We do have insurance now. We have insurance that would cover the
Right,
loss.
the checks wouldn't be insured anyway, it's the account holder.
Yes.
And that's really ridiculously low. When I was in the business, it was $250,000. I think it's up to $400,000 now or something, the FDIC insurance.
Yes.
And for us, it'd be,
Well, being a government, unlike, a private citizen or a business, they have to collateralize our money there.
Mhm.
So we are,
yeah.
we're much better covered than anybody else.
We can talk about that sometime because I'm not, it's not for tonight's conversation. We can talk about it.
Okay, do I hear any objection to Rick using electronic payments?
No, I think that if we can see a list of those payments ahead of time before they would go out, why wouldn't we just approve them at a meeting prior?
Well, like I said, I don't know I can do it for the medical,
Just a matter of
but
one,
I can do it for the debt service.
if it's necessary.
The medical insurance, Rick?
Well, I don't really know that till the bill gets here. I guess I could email everybody if you really wanted to get that email every month.
But is that the one that you're mainly concerned about, the medical insurance?
Well, that would be one of them.
That's a big
Yes, that's a
check.
big check. Medical insurance would be one, and particularly the payments for the capital leases, which is they can be fairly large checks too.
But the medical is just, it has to be, it has to go. So.
Right, but we could earn interest on the money
Yeah,
till the
yeah,
last minute.
Yeah, so I'm not as worried about how we sign off on that because there's no arbitration there. It is what it is. It has to be paid, am I right?
Perhaps if the
Yes.
commissioners want to pre-approve the things that are going electronically, you could approve the medical in advance in an amount not to exceed, and so you could build in some excess over the prior month's payment to cover any additional employees, and say it's approved electronically as long as it doesn't exceed this number.
Yeah.
And
Could
that
do
would
that.
allow you to look at it in advance.
Yeah, we could do that.
I'm just thinking there's a reason we're going through the motions to approve the check register. So if we can approve the forms of payment that are gonna replace those items on the check register, then we should probably do that.
Let me put together a list for the next meeting.
Because right now, we approve the check register before it goes out.
Correct.
Yeah, we don't approve it in hindsight, so.
Sure, okay. I will put that together.
Would you like a motion?
No, let's wait till I have the list together, and you could do it for the next meeting.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you,
That's
Rick.
all I have.
Assistant Manager, Aaron?
So I have on your agenda an item for new resident workshop. This is the item we've been talking about for quite a while. I think I had given you out at our last meeting the date of November 9th at 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. So just wanted to make sure that we had full discussion about that. We had 110 letters go out to residents who had moved into the township in the last quarter. We didn't require them to register because we didn't want to deter people, but we said if you would like to register, that would be appreciated. To date, we have 4. We're hoping for about 10% participation, which would give us about 10 to 11 people, so we'll see if we'll get there. My gut tells me that we'll get more next week when it gets closer to time, and that we might get a couple of people who come the day of that just didn't plan on registering, so we'll see how it goes.
I'm hoping to attend.
Okay, great. We'll have PowerPoint presentations from several departments. The idea to be to communicate with our residents, get them to register for a lot of the ways that we communicate with them so that they're kind of in our feedback loop. Get them to follow us on Facebook, sign up for the newsletter, sign up for Regroup, Crime Watch, all of those kind of things, our online bill pay, and also then orient them a little bit with the township. These are our commissioners, these are some of our appointed bodies, this is what they do, this is what your tax bills are gonna look like, this is what they mean, these are the people that you would get in contact with if you had a question about. These are some of your typical permitting issues, this is how you would get a permit, we're not gonna take them through the whole process, but yes, there's a form, this is where you would find it online. Some property maintenance issues, these are things that you will be held accountable for. Things of that nature, and some information on stormwater. Regroup from the public safety side, LA alerts. So that's kind of what we kind of want a quick hit, and then allow them to ask any questions. You are welcome to come and attend. If you want to say remarks, let me know, just because we're trying to keep it to about an hour and a half. So if we have all 5 of you come, that would be terrific. But the welcome comments have to be then brief, so if you want to attend, just let me know, and we will work you into the agenda. Any other questions?
If I come, I will be quiet, because brevity is not my strong point.
We can, yes. That's right, we are going to do one on parks. We'll have a map of where our parks are, and then also some of our public works services. This is a great time to hit them for leaf pickup, Christmas tree pickup, and then we'll let them know about West Shore Rec, that's good, and mulch and composting and all of those services too. Thank you, 'cause I totally forgot about parks, but yes, they're on the agenda.
Thanks for doing that and putting this together. I think over the years it'll grow and get better and get bigger too.
That's our hope.
Yeah, I
We
think
did
it
get comments from people that did reply and said, like, thank you for doing this, I think this is helpful. We had someone reach out and say, oh, I can't come that day, but can you please include me on the next one, because I want to come, so I think those are positive comments. The next item we have for you is, you have a resolution for the Multimodal Transportation Fund Program. Lower Allen Township is looking at applying for a grant to install a pedestrian railroad bridge that would connect Arcona over to Upper Allen Township. The cost of this is about $2.5 million. You'll see it on the resolution. The grant is due November 8th, so this actually is the last meeting before we would need to submit. Do you have any questions about this? We have a design of kind of a rough concept of what this would look like. We think it would be beneficial to our residents for both Upper Allen and Lower Allen. Upper Allen has some lovely parks and Winding Hill on that side, and on this side of the railroad tracks, we'll have all of the development from Arcona, which will include commercial establishments like restaurants. Thea's already there. Springgate is looking at going in there. So amenities that their residents would want to enjoy, and this is a way for them to not have to get in their vehicle and drive around to get there. So that's kind of the benefit that we were looking at
Will there
putting
be
together for
any
residents.
matching on our part?
It is, I think, 30%.
Aaron, does this mean that you got letters of recommendation from our neighboring township?
Not yet. As to date, they've invited me to attend their next meeting on November 6th to talk to them about this issue, which I plan to do, but I also would like to get some comment back from them as to where they might stand before I go to that meeting, just because it is a good amount of work to put together these grants, and I think it's pretty critical that we at least get support from Upper Allen when we submit this grant.
And you were going to go to some of the homeowner associations too, correct?
I want to make sure that they're okay with us reaching out to their residents in that way. I don't want to be seen as kind of circumventing them.
Okay.
If I may, Jeff's actually putting together what will, like the beginnings of what will be a neighborhood association over at Arcona. And so Jeff Logan, and that maybe you guys can connect with that too, because he's already starting some organization over there with some things.
Okay. Great.
Are you looking for action tonight, Mr. President? You are?
Yeah.
I think you need it tonight, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Well, I'd be willing to make the motion that we adopt Resolution 2019 R43, authorizing staff to execute documents for the Multimodal Transportation Fund Program for a trail over the railroad at Arcona.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yep. Second.
And I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Are we gonna run into trouble with Norfolk Southern?
Our hope is that since it's an aerial easement and not actually kind of going under, that it should be easier. This has been done in other places, so we're more hopeful than we were at our tunnel.
They always seem to throw a niche in it.
I think
Thank you.
Aaron's an optimist.
Gotta have them, right?
Never be an optimist.
I'm curious, are we involved at all with the proposed bridge, the walkway that's gonna go across Arcona Road that's kind of being proposed? We heard something in the last phase, I think that came through the Springgate building. Didn't they wanna put something over that, Arcona Road?
They wanted to hang a banner.
Okay, so there's not actually gonna be a walkway there?
No.
Okay. Just a banner.
A raised pedestrian crossing that goes across Arcona Road, but,
That's what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
no, but that's like a, it's like a speed table, kind of. It's just a hump in the road, it's not elevated.
Okay, so it's not in the air, it's just
Correct.
raised
Raised off
like
the
a speed
pavement,
bump.
but yeah.
I got it.
I'd like to plant something in the house like in the tracks. You haven't heard of house, sit on your tracks.
Okay.
This,
Okay, Carolyn.
this would be kind of by their clubhouse, kind of behind the clubhouse, and the pool is kind of the location of where the bridge would start the crossover. And we'll actually land in Lower Allen, and then there'll be a trail that connects, about 500 feet of trail that then gets it to Upper Allen, and it connects with a trail that they already have in place over
On their side, it's near Z-Star Road, and then there's sidewalk along there that eventually leads into their baseball fields.
Okay. Tom, how did you escape tonight?
I pushed everything off to everybody else. No, I don't have anything to.
And Dave and John, too. All right, it's time for commissioners' reports. So we'll start with Aaron tonight.
You all, I hope, received in your email the invitation to the Bon Voyage Bonton event. That'll be on November 6th at 3:30 p.m. in the Bonton parking lot, and we'll be knocking it down.
Thank you, Aaron.
I have nothing tonight.
Thank you, David. Vicki? Carolyn? Rick?
I have a couple. One has to do with the, I was reading with interest the Development Authority minutes, and there was a motion made that the authority board not, I just want to read it. Mr. Black made a motion that this board, meaning the authority board, is not going to take any direct technical discussion of the sheets proposal because of the correspondence Mr. Eby just referenced. Why would that development authority have any technical anything with the development of those sheets?
It had to do with Aaron's potential testimony in front of the review agencies.
The Lower Allen Township Comprehensive Plan gave some action items to many bodies that we have. One of them for the Development Authority being to review issues that would come up about redevelopment and potential redevelopment issues, and this would be a redevelopment issue. So I brought it to the Development Authority to say, do you want to provide testimony on this project, whether it be support, not support? If you have an issue about this redevelopment, do we want to discuss it? And to this point, we have not taken testimony on it because they have continued to ask for a continuance, so it hasn't been
So that would be,
critical.
that would be testimony before the zoning hearing board?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That makes
And it dealt specifically with that specific Development Authority meeting because I think in all honesty, we have seen the initial plans for sheets, but we haven't seen anything that they say they're modifying.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, we weren't ready to do our testimony.
You're looking at it from a development interest standpoint, not something that's going to be approved or not approved by anybody.
It is not an approving body for that
You're just-
decision, no. This would be, do we want to provide testimony at the zoning hearing board? Yes.
Okay. The other thing was, I joined Captain Crone and some folks at Breakfast for the Cop. I got an opportunity to help me out Jody, okay, and was the EMT Dave, is his name Dave? Jody, being a paramedic came in, and she was with, and, okay, they were together. And I just, my kudos to Captain Deven because Jody made it very well known that she's here, glad to be here, but she's here thanks to Captain Deven. And how great is it to come with a team built in who already work together, and she couldn't be happier. So that's to everyone's way to go. Right? Now I just have one last thing, and it's this: we heard tonight about roads that have been destruction to Thompson Lane and other roads via this pipeline issue. Is there any recourse? Should we be going and looking for somebody to remediate?
Yes, the contractor who did the work is responsible for that.
Okay.
And they've done a lot of remediation there. I've driven out there. The road needs to be probably repaved, but it's not as bad as some might make it out to be. It's not that rough.
I can add, I met with the contractor out there a couple weeks ago, and they do have a plan to do some extensive reconstruction. It's going to be in the spring.
Good.
It got too late in the paving season to get all those repairs done this year, but it will be done in the spring.
Well, I think, because obviously these folks didn't stay to hear that comment tonight, anything I guess we could do to educate those out there would be.
And we've dealt with them, Vicki and I mean, the pipeline just destroyed our corner. I mean, the apparatus they had to bring through, I mean, Dan could tell you, he came out and looked at it. They were very attentive the entire way. They would have come every single day and restored it, but it didn't make any sense. We were so rainy and wet last year, and they came periodically whenever I called, like within 24 hours.
Well, that's good. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean?
All I have is not much. I took a bike ride the other night, and then the next day, Vicki and I walked down, went through the roundabouts, and it's pretty interesting on our bike. I went on my bike, and then I took a walk. Not supposed to? Is that bad? There's a lot of people walking it, by the way. It's like a trail now, just so you know.
You're carving your initials in the wet cement?
No, but just so you know, if that's bad, there's a lot of people walking it and biking it. But they're cool. I hope they play out. One's clearly bigger than the other, right? I mean, or are they the same size? Because maybe it's a perception thing. They're not much different, okay. But they must have did a lot of land development under them, because there are drains everywhere. And so I would imagine the water, is going to be well drained around there, which I think would be good, because down in that corner at Ross Moyne and Lisburn, when the snow starts drifting across there, and then when that gets wet, so I'm hoping now that the water drains better than it ever did. So, but they look good.
I'll also tell you that I did have a conversation on Friday with Rob Bowman of Charter Homes. He wanted to call and tell me that he and Mr. Ferranda Dietrich had just driven around the roundabouts at Arcona, and was inviting me to come out and drive around them too. I wasn't here to get the message. But
oh, is that bad too, Dan?
But there was a comment on our Facebook page today. Somebody mentioned that she's seen a lot of people driving around them. Now, I'm going to assume that there are people working out there and not just people driving around the barricades. But the lady who posted this seemed to be implying that, snicker, oh, they're not open yet, but they really are, but they're not. Believe me, the barricades are still up, and if anybody's driving around them, it's people that have credentials and the official folks. But one of the things I talked to Mr. Bowman about was doing some sort of opening. They're going to be finished, I assume they're going to be finished with the Arcona roundabout before we're finished with Rosswind, but there's not going to be too much of a gap in time, but we want to do some kind of opening where we bring some folks out. And it's a big deal. So he's talking with his folks about trying to put something together, and he didn't get back to me today, but I expect to hear back from him tomorrow. So we're going to have to pull something together pretty quickly, and it's going to be tough to get everybody's schedules lined up if we're going to try to do something within 2 weeks. So just letting you know now that we're going to be planning something. Hopefully everybody will be able to come. We'll probably have some folks there from Charter and invite some folks from Penzi, and the architect did ours, and Hats folks, and just people that were involved in developing these two roundabouts. Because we only want to do it once. We don't want to open one and then close it down again to open the other one. That won't be too popular.
Anything else, Tom?
Just something I really hate to bring up, because I thought we were going to be able to avoid it this year. We got lucky. I mean, we have this discussion every year about when trick or treat is, and this year the Halloween night happened to fall on a Thursday, so we thought we were free and clear. Well, as it turns out, the weather forecast for Thursday night is pretty bad. And the discussion has been, what are we going to do about trick or treat? I polled the surrounding municipalities, and they're all going to go rain or shine Thursday night. Dave and I talked about it, and the forecast for Friday looks great, and there's no football games down at Cedar Cliff, so that would be an option. But again, if you want to stick with what everybody else is doing, kind of all, they're going to go rain or shine Thursday night.
On my household, figuring that we were. So we go rain or shine, I don't think we would even consider it.
I think it might lend some confusion out there if we try to make a change now.
That's great.
So the consensus is we're going to stay rain or shine Thursday the 31st.
Yeah, because I'd heard too, wouldn't it be great to be a meteorologist? You could be wrong every day and still keep your job. But I'd heard that there could be, they were showing scattered showers, then of course I heard it could be inundation. I don't know. Yeah, stay with it, I think.
It's supposed to be pretty steady until Friday morning, so.
How are we gonna get the word out if we take it to Friday?
Well, it'd be pretty tough. Newspaper, regroup.
What newspaper?
Well, Penn Live.
Oh, okay.
Not the actual physical paper, but put on Penn Live. We would use LA Alerts. We would use, website. The regroup doesn't reach as many people as we would like, so that's one of the things we're excited about with having this mentioned at the new residents workshop. Is to kind of push regroup, get more people to sign up for that. Dave and I talked this morning about trying to, launch some sort of a push to get this, because it's the difference between regroup and the one we had before was the one we had before captured all of the phone numbers that the phone company had. This one is a sign up. It's a volunteer. You have to sign up for it. So.
Well, we could put it through the schools too.
You could.
Have the schools announce.
But it doesn't seem like anybody's willing to do that, so it's a moot point. We're not going to put it out. And we're not going to change it, right? This is kind of the...
Don't blame it on me, but that's what I...
No, that's what I'm kind of hearing is everybody... Okay, the other question I had, I wanted to verify this before I say anything. Commissioner Shin, the Sewer Authority voted on the sewer rates for next year? Did they approve those yet?
That may be coming up next week.
Okay. Well, then I have nothing further.
I think we talked about them, but I'm not sure we took...
Well, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. I'd rather have the authority approve them before I mention anything. But,
Thanks for putting us in suspense, Tom. Tom, is that it?
that's all I have.
Madam Secretary? Rick? John?
Yes, as your liaison to the Yellow Breeches Watershed Association, your packet contained the flyer announcing the annual community gathering. It'll be next Thursday out at the barn at LACP from 6 to 8 p.m. I have hard copy of the flyers available. Would encourage anyone interested to attend or tell folks who are interested to attend. It should be an interesting evening.
That it?
Refreshments available.
Thank you. Dan?
Well, just an update on the roundabout projects, although I think you've heard most of it already, because the pavement's down. There's still some concrete work to be done yet, and they're working on that. But there's still quite a bit of signage and pavement markings to be done, and there's street lighting to go in. So there's still work to be done before the road can be open, but we're still on target for mid-November to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Last Thursday, Aaron, Rick, Dean, Tom, and I attended a ribbon cutting for a commercial flooring business on Ranavilla Avenue in our township, and they've done a wonderful job of taking a building that stood vacant for 5 years and renovating it. And Aaron helped out by providing them rug racks from the Bonton, track lighting from the Bonton, which they used very well, and some shelving. They were very appreciative. They're very nice people. It's Jim and Joy McDonald, and they do commercial flooring. Some of their largest clients are Messiah College, Messiah Village, Elizabethtown University, College, I'm sorry, and things like that. So they deserve all the good things. They really did a nice job there. Any comments from the audience? Yes.
So if you follow Facebook, there are links on there. We're on Crime Watch. There are also links on there where you can vote for Rocco. So you can do this every day until the contest ends. Make sure you get out there and do that. And the other thing you may notice, some of your cops are going to be a little scruffy looking through the month of November. We are paying to play, as it were, to raise money for Pink Hands of Hope in Mechanicsburg, cancer charity. So we're growing some beards, and the lady officers will be given the opportunity to have nifty nails. They can, normally the uniform policy is it has to be a neutral shade of nail polish, but they can express themselves with some color throughout the month.
Thank you, Leon. Anything else from anybody in the audience? Okay, thank you. We need to have an executive session, and it's on a personnel issue. So we'll come back with action. So we're going to recess into executive session. Do I hear a motion as a result of the executive session discussion?
Mr. President, I have a motion to, I would like to make a motion to authorize the staff to prepare a list of potential police officer candidates for the January hire.
Second.
Do you want to include that you're accepting the resignation? Okay. All right. So you've heard the motion. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And we are adjourned.